Hello everyone and welcome back to a virtual farm tour here at Chatsworth Farm. We've been on a bit of a hiatus. It's been a while since we did our last tour, but things have been quite busy here on the farm with winter coming on, so the cattle have all been brought home. Alex and Jaden and Nick have been busy building new fences, and then we had harvest, so just a whole bunch of things. But today is a beautiful day out. It's -6 and nice and sunny, so I thought we should do a tour so you can see what's going on and what's happening here. And then we also have a exciting announcement to make. We have something special that's coming up, so want to give you a little bit of a preview to that in a little bit. So let's take a look at the animals. Lizzie's here with me. All of the animals are kind of condensed now, so during the winter everything is brought a little bit closer to the yard, so the cattle are all here. The sheep have been brought up from their pen that's just a little further away, and then the poultry is all in three buildings right now, so we'll take a look at them. And it's been a while since I've used Facebook Live, and it's a little bit different now, so that's kind of nice. So this is one of the hen houses, and you can see there are a few cats in here as well. These hens are all of the mature hens, so all of the ones that are over a year old, and then some of the younger pullets, so the ones that were hatched this spring. And then we also had someone who dropped off 2 pumpkins for us. We don't know who it was, but thank you very much. Right after Halloween, we were taking anyone's pumpkins that they had left over from Halloween, whether they were carved and gutted out or if they were whole. So we thought the pumpkins were done for the year, but we still had 2 giant ones dropped off yesterday. So that was really nice. Thank you very much. The chickens are really enjoying them. So with the pumpkins, all we do is just smash them open. These were a little bit frozen, so I used an axe just to cut them in half. And then the hens will just kind of peck away at them and eat out all the seeds and all the guts of the pumpkin. So that's really good for them. Pumpkins are really high in a lot of nutrients, so it's really good for the hens to get that extra feed during the winter time, because they don't go outside as much. They don't really want to go outside because it is a little bit colder, and they don't really like snow that much. And then my hens are a little bit taking a break from laying eggs right now. So right where you can see Lizzie going through the nest boxes, those are where they lay their eggs. They usually lay their eggs in the morning. But right now we're only getting about 2 to 3 eggs a day because they are molting. So molting is when the hens replace, or any chickens or any birds, replace their old feathers and they start to grow in new ones. So that's what they're doing right now, all of the older ones. Any of the young ones that have hatched this spring, they have all of their new feathers, so they're not going to start molting until they're over a year old. So chickens kind of do one thing at a time. So they're either laying eggs, they're either molting, or they're raising chicks. They usually don't do more than one thing at a time. So because they are all molting, we're not getting very many eggs. And the young pullets are almost, whoops, Lizzie. The young pullets are not quite at the stage where they can start laying. So probably by the beginning of next month, we'll start to see some pullet eggs from them. So you can also see Lizzie's in here. There are numerous amount of cats in here. And the chickens and them get along quite well. So I took the eggs out so you can see them right here. These are 2 of the eggs that were laid this morning. It's a little bit tough to tell, but there's a nice olive one here on the left-hand side, and then this one that's more on the right is what I would call like a blue-tinted egg. So even though we're not getting very many, the ones that we are getting are lovely colors. So I'm going to put these, we just use regular pails like this, and we'll set this up in the hen house at the top here because warm air rises. So they just stay in the pail up here for a little bit. And then at night, we'll take it inside so the eggs don't freeze. So we're going to get everybody out of here. Lizzie, come on. Come on. The cats can stay in the hen house. Don't have any issues with them being in there at all. They kind of give extra protection against vermin if the cats are in the hen house. So that's very good for us. So it's been quite a while since we did a tour. So if anyone has any questions about what's happened on the farm, I will try and give you a kind of full update, or we're going to take a look. And then I did say we were going to try and walk you through chores a little bit. So in the winter, it takes a little bit longer sometimes because it is colder, but today is really nice and it's sunny. But all of the poultry within the buildings, they all get fresh water each morning. So they all have black rubber tubs that will wash out, so they get fresh water, and then they'll get grain. So the grain mix kind of changes depending on if the birds are older or if they are younger. So the more mature hens, because they're laying eggs or because they're replacing their feathers, they need a little bit of extra calcium because egg production and feather growth takes a lot of that. So they get extra calcium and some layer mash that just has some extra protein in it, where the younger birds get a little bit of a different mixture because they're growing. So they'll also get the same calcium, but just slightly change it up. And then we have some extra peas and barley that we cleaned out of our granaries as we were getting ready to put new grain in them for the fall. So they have all of that. So I have some of the grain mixed up right here that I'll show you. So this is what it looks like. And that was Lizzie's nose. So the kind of larger gray flecks, that's oyster shell. So that helps with the chicken's digestion because they don't have teeth. All of the feed that they eat goes into their gizzard and it grinds it up. So the oyster shell helps them with that. It kind of it just helps process it a little better. So you can even give them sand or even tiny little rocks. So when you see birds on the road and you're thinking, what are they eating? They're eating the tiny little stones. And so the oyster shell reacts in that same way. And then also there's a little bit of layer mash in here. So that's just something that we buy from UFA. So it just helps give them an extra little protein boost. And then there's also some crushed up barley in here. The bigger pieces are wheat. And then there's also some calcium, which is a very super fine powder. So you're not really able to see that. But this is a mixture that we'd give the hens. And then any of the other chicks will get something a little bit different. Very similar, but slightly different. So we have the horse over there. We'll go give her some oats. So with all the animals, they all kind of get different feed, or they're different feeds that are better for them. And we have the cats here. The cats really like the sunshine. So they sit on the corners of the building in the sunshine. So trying to pour out feed with one hand is always a little bit tricky, but so these are oats. Oats are a cereal grain. It looks very similar to barley, but oats are they're the leaner, skinnier cousin of barley. So oats are really good for younger animals because they are very high in protein, and then they're easier to digest because they aren't as tough as barley. And when I mean tough, I just mean sort of hard. It's easier for them to munch on oats, and the horse and the ram really like it too. So they already got some this morning, but she's over here and she's kind of nickering to me, so I'll give her some more. So she's out here with the ram. He's over by the ewes. The ewes are getting to the point where we're going to put the ram in with the ewes so we can have him breed them. So we'll just give her a few oats because she already had some. So whenever you're feeding a horse, and horses in particular, it's different if you're feeding cattle. Horses have very prehensile lips, so their lips can move quite easily and kind of independently from one another. They also have very large teeth and teeth on the top and bottom. So whenever you're feeding a horse, always keep your hand flat and just trust that they're going to eat the food and not your fingers, because that's really what they want. They're not too interested in your gloves or your hand. But sometimes it just takes a little bit of confidence each time to be able to do that, so don't worry. So I haven't been riding her in a little bit. I think the last time I rode her was when we moved our heifers home. So usually we move all of the cattle home with the trucks and the trailers, whether it's the gooseneck trailers or the big cattle liners, which is right there. So that's the big cattle liner, that big metal trailer. But the heifers were fairly close to home, so we actually just moved them across the field. So the fields had already been harvested, and we didn't have to worry about wrecking anything or damaging any crops. So we just moved the heifers home slowly. So we used the horse. I was riding her. Nick was driving the lead truck, so the heifers know to follow the trucks, and he'll call them, and he gives them some grain to just kind of coax them along. And then Jaden was following up with the other truck, and Jaden has been working here on the farm with Nick and Alex. He's a friend of theirs, so it's been great to have his help. And then Alex was on the quad. So it was quite a cold day, so we were quite bundled up, but it was quite fun, and the heifers did really well. And heifers are yearlings, so this was their first time moving home, walking home. And heifers kind of have a tendency, or are known for being a little bit spontaneous and sometimes uncooperative. But ours, they did really well, so we were quite happy, and we didn't have any issues. We walked them home, and everyone was really sore and cold afterwards, but it was good. So we're going to move on from the horse. So she's had enough. We're going to go take a look at the sheep now. So you can see the yard is nice and snow covered. We've moved all of the chickens out of their summer pens, so now they are in their winter barns. This is one of the straw bales that we just bring up, so it's nice and convenient for us. So usually every other day we'll put straw in the coops for the chickens and the geese and the ducks. And this straw bale is a barley straw bale, so you can make straw bales pretty much out of anything, any kind of cereal crop. So you can have barley straw, wheat straw, pea straw, canola straw. But for bedding the chickens especially, either barley or wheat straw is the nicest. So over in here, as we make our way to the sheep, we have, in here we have the mature ducks, so the older ducks. We have the little ducklings that you maybe remember from a couple months ago. They're not so little anymore, so they're all the way at the back. They just got moved in here today. And then we have the roosters, so I keep the roosters separate from the hens. So these are all of the mature roosters, and then some of the older ones that were hatched this spring. So keeping the male animals separate is quite a common practice, keeping them separate from the females, because males can get quite aggressive. And so right now, especially since the hens are growing in their feathers, I don't need the roosters roughing up their feathers any more than they already are. So the roosters stay here with the geese. And ducks and geese are a little bit, they cohabitate a little bit better when it's males and females, because that's just the way they naturally are. So having them together is all right, and their breeding season is more confined to the spring. So in the winter, they don't really think about that. So they don't really think about breeding up until the spring, whereas chickens are a little bit more year-round types. So that's why they're separate. And we have Lizzie over here. And then the geese are out. As you can tell, the chickens quite like to stay inside. So they're not really a fan of cold weather. They're definitely not a fan of snow. Even if it was plus 20 outside and there was snow on the ground, they probably wouldn't come outside. But the geese and ducks have no problem with the snow at all. So especially when it's a nicer day like today, they'll kind of go in and out in the outside between their barn and the outside yard. So we also did our silage this fall. We got it done right after Thanksgiving. So that giant mound in the background that's surrounded by the bales, that's our silage. So we haven't broken into it yet. So it's still fermenting. So that's what we want from silage. It's kind of like sauerkraut. So you want it to ferment. And that's what we'll feed to the cattle. So it's corn silage. And then one of the other things everyone has been busy with the last couple of weeks are hauling the hay bales home from our pastures, or our hay fields, which are south of Vermilion. So this is one of the stacks. So these are all the hay bales. And Alex is right now going out and taking the hay to the cattle. So hopefully I can get to him before he drives away, because I wanted to show you that. So he's opening the fence. Alex! Alex! He might not get me, so that's okay. We can go out because the cattle start to move very quickly when they're hungry. So they'll start to follow him. So Alex and Jaden and Nick have built a lot of new fences around the yard, so we're able to keep the cattle in a few different pens, and just a little bit easier pens that are a little bit more permanent rather than temporary. He's coming back for me. So here we have the cows and calves. So these are all the calves that were born this spring. Watch out, Lizzie. And Alex is here in the fence with our bale processor. The door. Do you want me to lock the gate? So, say hi, Alex.
Hi, everybody.
So we have the cattle. Watch out for Lizzie. Sure. So all the cattle are quite excited to get their food, and Lizzie came with me. She usually doesn't come with the tractor. She's sort of supposed to stay away as we're driving around the field. So over where all the straw is, that's where we bed the cattle for a majority of the winter time. So just like the chickens, they get straw. Once it starts to get less nice fluffy straw and a little bit dirtier in their pen, as well as if it starts to snow a lot, then they get nice fresh straw, so they're able to sleep in a warm bed rather than on top of the snow. So as soon as the cattle hear the tractors, they all start to and this is the field where we had the corn, so this is what we chopped for silage. So we had one of our cousin's husband's farm. They do custom silage chopping, so he came over here and he had the chopper, and then we used this tractor to pull one of the carts, and then we borrowed a few trucks from a neighbor, so that was very helpful. So you can see all the cows are starting to follow us and come to where we are, and this is what the bale processor does. So it's kind of like I think that made it worse. So it's very dusty, so you can see the window of the tractor gets quite covered in dust and then snow, and then it melts and it just kind of creates a little bit of a mess on the windows, but we'll clean it off periodically. So the bale processor is kind of like a giant blender in the sense that it has blades on the bottom, and so it chops that up and then it spreads it out. So the nice thing about a bale processor is that it can take hay that isn't as good quality. So say you didn't have a good year, or you had some older bales that maybe are a little bit musty or dusty. The bale processor will help eliminate all of that, so the cattle get a better quality feed. So you can go outside and take a look. So the bales are covered with or wrapped with mesh. So you can either use mesh or twine. Mesh is just our preference, and it helps keep the hay or the straw wrapped together tightly. So Alex will take that off, and then he's going to lift up the bale, and it's going to dump it into the hopper, and I'm going to just wrap up the mesh like this, and he's going to lift it up, and it'll dump in, and I'll pull the mesh off. So just like that. And then we pull the mesh off the bale, and then we just throw it in the garbage. We were able to recycle it at one point, but now we're not able to do that anymore, so it does just have to go in the garbage. So we have all the cows and calves are here, and we want to keep ahead of them, so we're going to jump back in the tractor. So all of the calves, you can see how much they've grown since this spring. So all of the cows and calves are back. And the calves are still with their mothers, so there's some of them will still be nursing, but they kind of start to wean themselves off, or the cows will decide for them that they've had enough, or the cows are kind of tired of nursing their calves.
Normally we'll have them weaned by this time of year, but we've been pretty busy with other things, and we just, by weaning I mean separating them from their mothers permanently, and then that's a way to permanently wean them. Normally we have it done by this time of year, but the way things have worked out, we haven't been able to do that, unfortunately. So, and we might have a change of plans as far as selling them, so we're holding off on weaning them. It's not too late yet, but we'll figure out what we're going to do here, and we'll get that sorted out. But normally by this time of year we would have them weaned and in separate pens from their mother, and that way they're separated from their mother, and they're old enough. It's not they're eating solid, they're not drinking too much milk anymore. They're mostly mostly eating hay and any roughage they're getting, so they're old enough now that their stomachs, their room in their stomach is developed, that they can
eat more, so they can eat the food that their mothers are eating. So the rest of the bales that we have are stacked along here, so right behind those portable windbreaks. And as we were driving out, because Alex did wait for me because he's nice, some of the calves did walk through the gate, because usually they'll all follow us, but the calves get quite rambunctious and excited, and they're over here, so we'll have to put them in. So these calves are not where they're supposed to be. So we have the sheep over here, they're in their pen. They get fed using a bale feeder, so we'll go take a look at them. And so we have cattle just wandering around the yard, but we'll get them back in. So here you can kind of see the silage pit a little bit better now, since we're a little bit higher up. And so here are all the escapees. So we'll just walk them back in. And they're all, they know they're out, so they kind of all get a little bit excited. So they know where they're supposed to go, and they'll just, as soon as they see the others, they'll just run through the gate and go get the hay where they're supposed to be eating. So while we're over here, Alex will get the rest. While we're over here, we'll take a look at the sheep. So we moved the sheep from their pen, which was down by the corn, up here, which is just a little bit closer. So they have their hay in a bale feeder like this because there aren't as many of them. Their pen is smaller, and also sheep are smaller, so they don't eat as much. And this is Rosie, for anyone who hasn't met her. She is now kind of permanently part of the farm. We had her here as a bottle lamb, and now the cattle are coming back. Come on. Come on, girls. Especially if cattle get out like this, or they're on part of the, we're just gonna leave her, on part of the road during the winter time, it's really important to move them quite slowly, because the roadway is really slippery, even for us. And because cattle have hooves, it's very easy for them to slip. So when we're moving the cattle like this, we want to be really careful that we're not moving them too quickly so they don't slip and fall. Even though the calves are running like that. Do you want me to shut it, or giving them another one? All right. Well, we're gonna stay here and make sure the cattle don't come out. We'll take a look at the sheep. We'll go back to the sheep. So Rosie, who's right here, she was our bottle lamb. We got her from a neighbor, and she was only kind of supposed to be a temporary addition to the farm, but she's kind of now permanent. So Because she is a different breed than the rest, and she is a little bit smaller than the ram that we have, we most likely won't breed her. So we'll just kind of keep her, and she'll be the sheep kind of mascot for us, I guess. So the rest of these ewes are going to be bred in the middle of December. So we're going to put the ram in with the ewes, and then the gestation period for sheep is 244 days, I believe. I haven't talked about sheep gestation in a while, so hopefully I'm correct. So whenever that roughly works out, they will have their lambs beginning of May. So all of the ewes that we will breed are going to be the ones with the pink tag. So all of the mothers that had lambs this spring. The lambs that we have that were born this spring, we're not going to breed them because they are related to the ram. So the ram is their sire, he's their father. And then any of the other lambs, we will just keep them, and then we'll kind of take them through our process of keeping them for lamb for meat. And then the ewes will have their babies in May. So sheep are really well suited to our climate, especially this breed. So wool is kind of an all-purpose coat, so it's good for keeping them warm in the winter, and then dry if it's a little bit wet outside, so if it's raining. So, and as the winter goes on, their wool is going to keep growing, so it continuously grows, just like your fingernails or just like hair on anything else. And then once spring comes around, right before May, we're going to shear the sheep. So Alex shears the ewes right before they lamb. So that makes it easier for them to have their lambs nurse. And then just completely gives them a nice fresh start for the spring and summer. So they're nice and cool, because otherwise wearing all that wool is quite warm. So the sheep also get straw. They're in here with the trees, so that gives them their shelter. And then one thing that the sheep also really like that we're coming up on right now is, so as we're getting closer to the holidays, and we celebrate Christmas, so we put up a Christmas tree, and we always get a real one. And one thing that's really interesting about sheep is that they really like spruce needles and spruce trees, and it's quite good for their digestive system. So once we're done, hi Rosie, once we're done with our Christmas tree and we've taken all the decorations off of it, make sure there's no tinsel on it or anything like that, we give the Christmas tree to the sheep. So just like the pumpkins, if you're watching this and you're nearby, if you have a Christmas tree that is live, that you haven't sprayed with, say, hairspray, it's just natural, and you've removed all of the decorations from it, if you want to let us know, we can come pick up the Christmas tree, because the sheep really like it and it is good for them. So we're going to be doing that. So just like the chickens like the pumpkins, the sheep will like the Christmas trees. So Alex and Nick just arrived, so they're going to be going out with another load of bales for the cattle. So there's a kind of a different view. So I also had some exciting news to tell you about. So we're working on a very special project. So we were going to work on doing a little pop-up shop here at the farm, because we have the beef, we have wheat for if you want to make bread, or a traditional Ukrainian dish we always have for Christmas is called kucha. So it's kind of like porridge, and then you put honey on top of it. It's very good. So we were going to do a little holiday pop-up market. But then I thought, why don't we expand on that? And we have decided to do a holiday mini market here on the farm. So the details are going to be released on a Monday. So we're going to have a bunch of local vendors come to the farm, and we're going to set up for a little Christmas or a holiday market. And everything that we're going to have here is going to be locally made or produced. So we have an excellent lineup of vendors. I'm very excited. So be sure to check that out. We are going to have it, if we are able to do it in person, which I'm hoping for, registrations are going to be required, so we can just make sure that we're maintaining the proper numbers. But if for some reason we're not able to host it in person here on the farm, we're going to do it virtually. So we're going to do it online. So be sure to check that out. I'm very excited, and we have a lot of exciting things planned. So if we can do it here, we're going to have hot apple cider that you can enjoy. Come take a tour right around the yard. We're not going to be doing any specific farm tours just because we're going to be busy that day with the market, but Lizzie will be at the house. I'm sure there will be numerous cats there, so bring your family, and I will have all the details coming on Monday. So really looking forward to that, and hopefully you can join us. Lizzie's over here, and I think we're just about done with the tour for today because I have a few things that I need to do. Need to get some pictures of the animals because I'm running out of the ones that I currently have. So we're going to go do that. Put together some more meat packages. So we do have some winter beef boxes available. So getting those ready for next week. And then just some various other holiday things. So getting the lights up on the house and cleaning up the yard a little bit more. So thank you everyone for watching. If you have any other questions about the farm, you can still leave them in the comments below, and I'll get to them right after. So from me and Dizzy, thanks for tuning in. Bye. Watch out, Liz.